This is lesson 5.5. We're going to talk about long division and synthetic division with variables or using algebra. And so this is just two different ways to divide polynomials. So let's look at some review first. When you talk about long division, as a student you first learned long division in probably about 4th grade. And you learned how to create a little doghouse. And you put the big number on the inside, make sure it's big enough. And you put the littler number on the outside, and we go through the process of dividing. So this may be something that you're really good at, but I want you to really notice the steps as I go through. So if I'm going to divide this, the first thing I say to myself is, does 4 go into 3? No, it doesn't. So does 4 go into 36? Yes, it does. So the question I ask myself is 4 times what equals 36? It's 4 times what? 4 times 9 equals 36. And notice that I'm lining the 9 up above the 6 because the 4 had to go into the 3 and the 6 both, not just the 3. So then, once I put the 9 up there, my next process is to say 9 times 4 equals 36. And then I'm going to subtract. So 36 minus 36 is 0, and I bring down my next term, which is a 1. So my question is, does 4 go into 0? No. Does 4 go into 1? Yes, it does. Or, no, it doesn't. So I would say, how many times does 4 go into 1? Well, you'd have to multiply by 0, because it goes in there 0 times. So then I would say 0 times 4 gives me 0, and then I would subtract, and I would end up with 1, and this is called my remainder. But when I write my answer, I would say 36 divided by 4 equals 90, and the remainder is 1, but if we want to write it as a fraction, we would write 1 divided by 4. So 361, divided by 4 equals 90 and 1/4. So the process was 4 times what gives me 36. Then I wrote the 9 and I distributed it back through. Then I subtracted. Then I brought the number down. Then I said 4 times what gives me 1, and the closest answer is 0. So I distributed. 0 times 4 is 0. Then I subtracted. 1 minus 0 was 1, and that was my remainder. So my remainder went on top, and this is called your divisor. Divisor goes in the bottom. Okay? That's with numbers. So now we're going to do this with variables, and it's going to look very, very much the same, except now you're going to see x's and x squareds and x cubes and stuff like that. So you have to just really focus on what you've got. It looks scary because it's a big problem, but in reality it's the exact same process. So I'm going to start with x squared and 3x to the 4th. So my question would be, what times x squared would give me 3x to the 4th? What do I have to multiply x squared by to get 3x to the 4th? So I have to multiply by a 3 and x squared. If I multiply 3x squared times x squared, I get 3x to the 4th. Okay? Now, since x squared is not the only term over here, I have to also distribute the 3x squared to the negative 3x. So 3x squared times negative 3x is negative 9x to the 3rd. Then I go on to the next part, which would be 3x squared times 5. So 3x squared times 5 would be positive 15x squared. Now we're probably going to run into a little bit of a problem here on this subtracting, and I'll show you why. I'm going to subtract, so remember, every time we go through, we're going to say 3x to the 4th minus 3x to the 4th, which is 0, so those cancel. Then I'm going to say negative 5x to the 3rd minus negative 9x to the 3rd. So if I subtract a negative, it becomes positive, so negative 5 plus 9 is 4x to the 3rd. Now, the next thing I need to subtract is this 15x squared, but there's not an x squared term in here to use. So I'm going to say 0 minus 15x squared would be negative 15x squared. Now I'm going to go on to this next term, which was a positive 4x. So I'm going to say positive 4x is what's next, and it gets to be brought down. So positive 4x. So now I'll go through my whole process again, and I'm going to switch colors for you. So I'm going to start with x squared and say x squared times what gives me 4x to the third. What do I have to multiply by? I have to multiply by 4x. So then I'm going to distribute 4x times x squared is 4x to the third. 4x times negative 3x is negative 12x squared. 4x times 5 is positive 20. And again, I'm going to subtract. So when I say 4x cubed minus 4x cubed, that cancels. When I say negative 15x squared minus negative 12x squared, a negative times a negative is going to make that positive. So this is going to be negative 15x squared plus 12, which is negative 3x squared. Then I'm going to say 4x minus 20. Well, that doesn't work because 4x and 20 are different terms. So I'm going to bring the 4x down, and I'm going to put a 0 here so that I can say 0 minus 20, which is negative 20. Okay, and I'm kind of out of space, but I have another step to do, so I'm going to squeeze at least part of that in here. So now let's go to the next step. I'm going to say x squared times what gives me negative 3x squared. So I multiply by negative 3. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Notice that I'm trying to multiply it so I get exactly the same number, because I always want this to cancel out. I always want the first step to cancel out. That's my goal. So now if I distribute the negative 3 to the next term, I'm going to have positive 9x. And if I distribute the negative 3 to the 5, I'm going to have minus 15. When I subtract those, I'm left with 3x squared. Negative 3x squared minus negative 3x squared cancels. 4x minus 9x is negative 5x. Negative 20 minus negative 15 is negative 5. And so my answer is going to be 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. So I'm going to have 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. And then what do I do with this remainder that I have right here? So I'm going to put another plus, and I'm going to put my remainder over the divisor. And I'm going to erase it from here because we put it up here. That's what my answer is going to look like. Okay, I have another one for you because I know that probably got messy and it's easy to get lost. So let's try another one. If I want to divide f of x equals x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2 divided by x minus 2, x minus 2 is a binomial and it's smaller, so it goes on the outside. X cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2 is a polynomial, so it goes on the inside. So I'm going to go through my step. This is going to be a little bit smaller problem. So I'm going to start with the x. X times what gives me x cubed? And that's going to be x squared. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. And then let's subtract. X cubed minus x cubed is going to cancel. 5x squared minus negative 2x squared, the two negatives become plus, so that's 7x squared. And then the next term doesn't have anything to subtract, so I'm going to bring it down. Now I'm going to change colors. I'm going to start again. X goes into 7x squared how many times? What do I have to multiply by? So I'm going to multiply by 7x. 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times negative 2 is negative 14x. Subtract. 7x squared minus 7x squared, that cancels. Negative 7x minus negative 4, two negatives makes a positive, so this is positive 7x. And then I'm going to bring down my last term. I'm going to switch colors. And now we're going to start again with the x. X times what gives me 7x? So I have to multiply by positive 7. 7 times x gives me 7x. 7 times negative 2 gives me negative 14. Going to subtract. So 7x minus 7x cancels. 2 minus negative 14 makes that become positive 14, which makes this a remainder of 16. So my solution is right here, x squared plus 7x plus 7 plus my remainder of 16 over my divisor of x minus 2. So when you put it all together, here is our answer. Now, I truly recommend that you stop right now in the video, back up, look at example 1 again, look at example 2 again. The long division is the hardest part. It confuses more people than the next part's going to, so this would be a good time to back up and just double check. Once you've done that, we're ready for the next type. So the next type of division is called synthetic division. Sometimes it's called synthetic substitution. Synthetic division and synthetic substitution, I can't talk, mean the same thing. They work the same way. So first of all, let's talk about what does synthetic mean. Synthetic means it was manufactured or made up, created by. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means somebody created synthetic division because it's shorter, it's faster, and it's cleaner, and it's easier to see what the answer is going to be. So it's the exact same answers as long division, but it's going to be a manufactured way that's easier to solve. When you do synthetic division, what you do first is you just take out the coefficients for each term. Coefficients or constants, okay? Because that's all we're going to look at. With synthetic division, you take the x's out and you don't work with them. So this part right here is going to be my inside. So 2, 1, negative 8, 5. And then I'm going to make a big table looking thing. And I know that my remainder has to go under the last number, which is right here. So I put kind of like a little remainder slash. This is my little remainder slash. Okay, I have x plus 1. I'm sorry. I have x plus 3 up here. Here's what you have to remember that's slightly different than what we did before. If I have x plus 3, since this is synthetic division, we take the 3, we change its sign, and we put it over here. So this was positive 3, and we're putting negative 3 onto the side of our synthetic division. Okay? So that's how you set it up. That's all you have to do to set it up. And the process goes like this. Bring the first number down, multiply that number by negative 3, and put it right here. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And then I'm going to add. 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5. And I'm going to multiply that negative 2 times negative 3 and get 15. And add, which gives me positive 7. Then I'm going to do 7 times that negative 3, which is negative 21. And then I'm going to add. 5 plus negative 21 is negative 16. So, with synthetic division, you bring the first number down, and then from there you multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, get your remainder, and then now we write the answer. So what's the answer going to be? Well, my coefficients are 2, negative 5, and 7, and my remainder is negative 16. Okay? So this was 2x to the third. This answer will be 1 less. So 2x to the third, this answer is 2x to the second. Then from there, I'm just going to go down the list. This is x squared, so this is x, which means the plus 7 doesn't have an x at all. So I want x squared, x to the first, no x's at all, and then this is my divisor, x plus 3, and that's my solution. See how much cleaner and easier synthetic division is? Okay, so let's do a couple more because I know this is brand new. 3x to the third minus 4x squared minus 28x minus 16 divided by x plus 2. So I'm going to write 3, negative 4, negative 28, negative 16. 3, negative 4, negative 28, negative 16. Make my box, make my remainder bar, take this number, put it opposite, so it's positive 2, so it becomes negative 2. And now we're set up and ready to go. Bring down the first term, multiply by the negative 2, negative 6. Add, negative 4 plus negative 6 is negative 10. Multiply by that negative 2, so negative 10 times negative 2 is 20. Add, negative 28 plus 20 is negative 8. Multiply by that negative 2, negative 8 times negative 2 is 16. Add, and you actually get a remainder of 0. So how does the solution go? Well, it's 1 less than x cubed, so this is x squared, this is x, and there will be no x after the 8. So my solution is 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. That's what you get when you divide this term by this binomial. This is a polynomial, and this is called a binomial. Okay? Got one more of those for you. This time I'm going to show you what do you do if you're missing a term. How do I know I'm missing a term? Well, I have x squared. The next thing should be something x, and it's missing. And then I have the 9. So I'm going to start off by saying this should be x squared plus 0x plus 9 divided by x minus 3. So now let's set it up. This is going to be 1, 0, 9. Make my box, make my remainder line. I'm going to take this negative 3, I'm going to switch it to positive 3, and that's my setup. Alright, so here we go. Bring down the first number. 1 times 3 is 3. Add, 0 plus 3 is 3. Multiply by 3 again. 3 times 3 is 9. Add, 9 plus 9 is 18. That's my remainder. This was x squared, so in my answer we go 1 less, so 1x plus 3 plus 18 over the divisor, which was x minus 3. So I'm just going to write it one more time for you. X plus 3 plus 18 over x minus 3 is what I get when I divide x squared plus 9 by x minus 3. Okay, so when you're doing long division, if you're missing a piece, like on this one I'm missing a couple pieces, I think, because I have 4x to the 4th and then it skips a bunch. So I would rewrite this as 4x to the 4th plus 0 x cubed plus 0 x squared plus 5x minus 4 divided by x squared minus 3x minus 2. So when you set up your doghouse for this one, you have 4x to the 4th on the inside plus 0x cubed plus 0x squared plus 5x minus 4. And then you're going to divide that by x squared minus 3x minus 2. This will be the first problem that you need to show me on your own. This will be your long division problem for on your own. Make sure you've got this one written down. And then here is your synthetic division problem for on your own. So I need to see two things, long division and synthetic division.